Welcome to Threatsafe. This is our podcast to help SMEs and SMBs and the people who manage IT within those businesses or responsible for IT to get the very best from the technology that they deploy and also to manage their cybersecurity. Let's listen to this week's podcast. And here we go. Hello everybody, welcome to Threatsafe episode 7. I'm Martin Roberts, Managing Director of Neuways with
Toby Stevenson, Chief Technology Officer of Neuways.
And because we're doing this via Teams, I can remember this because it says at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, which is very, very useful, I find.
You can remember your name. Excellent. Good.
Absolutely. So this, as we say always, this podcast, this video cast, whatever you call them these days, is aimed at people who are responsible for IT but don't necessarily run IT. So CEOs, CFOs, etc. So Toby, this month is a special month in our calendar because it is Cyber Awareness Month.
Yeah, Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Yeah, so we've put together a program of content that's been released all through the month. Check out the website, check out our socials. There's a whole bunch of good stuff on there. I think it shall hopefully appeal to the listeners of this podcast. So let us know what you think.
And I'm going to do this because it's really useful, apparently, because right here will appear the name of the website you can visit to the content that we're talking about. If it doesn't appear, I'm just going to look like I'm putting my finger there, which seems a bit odd. But
they do that on Strictly when they want you to vote for them as well.
I'm afraid you're referring to a cultural phenomenon which I have no understanding of.
Okay.
So, there you go. Right then. So we've got Cyber Awareness Month coming up, Cybersecurity Awareness Month coming up, and we'll just talk about a couple of incidents that have happened, and then one horizon threat, we'll call it, and I don't mean the post-Olympus horizon system, which is a threat in itself. And the first, we were talking earlier on, Toby, and we witnessed or we heard about this event at these train stations in London.
Yeah, and this was only a couple of weeks ago. It happened kind of middle end of September, and people were greeted by, let's say, irregular landing pages when they connected to the station Wi-Fi. And there was, we've been hacked, and there was a lot of excitement around it because, of course, there's very competing arguments about whether you should connect to public Wi-Fi. And when
my next question, actually, Toby, is I've been told specifically by you, as part of our overall education program, is not to go around connecting to random networks. Is that fair?
I think on the whole, I think it's good advice. I mean, the problem is that you connect to a Wi-Fi network and you've got no way of validating its authenticity. Now, there are arguments about, well, what can someone do if I connect to a rogue access point? And in the very worst case, they could intercept any data that you're sending somewhere. So there's a danger from that perspective. Most traffic is encrypted, so you could argue that again that data is secured through its encryption mechanisms, but it's not outside the realms of possibility for someone to insert themselves in between you and that encrypted target and decrypt it and re-encrypt it. So there are definitely some risks. I think on the whole, it's generally safer to avoid public Wi-Fi if at all possible, particularly in places like airports and trains and shopping centres. Those kinds of things probably worth trying to avoid if you can. Again, you go into a coffee shop and connect to the Wi-Fi there. Which one do you connect to? Everyone always connects to the one that's at the top of the list. And because it's the first one that's there, and you'll sometimes see that some Wi-Fi that's advertised has got additional characters in there so that it's promoted to the top of the list.
Right, okay.
So just generally be a bit cynical is the advice I would give there.
So what you're saying is basically any Wi-Fi which is called aardvark, you try and avoid, is that it?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah. Or if they've got underscores in or things like that, because again, it's a way of, or things that say free Wi-Fi, instantly be cynical that they are legit things.
Interestingly, I mean, we did have a device for a little while somewhere which allowed us to to do
Yeah,
things.
yeah. There's a series of there's different ways of doing it, but there's a little box called a pineapple, which allows you to simulate an access point. And until the very latest Wi-Fi came out, it was remarkably easy to do and quite hard to combat against. And certainly the lower end Wi-Fi solutions, even for business, had a real difficult time in controlling these rogue access points. And yet you could take that device and you can they're really clever because they will relay your connection through. So they will broadcast on one SSID, one network name. You connect to that, and they then connect to the legitimate network to give you internet access. So you think everything is wonderful and fine, but actually you don't really know the route that your traffic's taken. And you have to do a lot of analysis and an in-depth investigation to actually see what's going on there.
Okay, and I mean, is it fair to say that if for some reason you haven't got a data plan on your phone, you're running out of data and such like that, I have an unlimited data plan. Basically, as you told me, it was a good idea. Instead of connecting to access points, and this is why you cost me a lot of money, Toby. But anyway, more importantly, is that if I do have to connect to any wireless for any reason, is there certain things you should avoid doing while connected?
Yeah, I would try and avoid doing anything that requires you to put in really sensitive information. So try and avoid logging into your online banking while you're on a public Wi-Fi. If you have one, then connect to the VPN. So if you're working on a public spot in a business capacity and the company provides Wi-Fi, a VPN connection back into the corporate network, then use that method. Because what you're doing is you're double encrypting, and so you're hiding inside another layer of encryption, which you know and you can control and you can attest to. The big issue with public Wi-Fi is you just don't really know anything about it.
Yeah. Okay. No, really useful stuff. And of course, the one thing about this recent, we'll call it an attack, better call it compromise. Wasn't it an insider?
It turned out to be, So essentially, what happened is the landing page when you can, normally it says "Welcome to such and such location" and or something like that, and that page had been replaced with something that was political in nature around the ongoing Middle Eastern situation. So you're instantly drawn to, well, is this a hacktivist? Is this someone that's that's on a particular side of that argument, and they are trying to make a statement about something?
So inconvenient rather than dangerous, one would say.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think the intent of this was to try and steal anyone's credentials. I think it was to, a bit like online graffiti, that kind of thing. And it turned out that it was actually somebody inside the organisation that was responsible for providing the Wi-Fi for the station, and they had a particular. So in a way, they were kind of a hacktivist. They were making a political statement. Whether this individual was on their way out or not, I suspect that they're out now. But I think if they were on their way out, and this was kind of like the last throw of the dice, it comes back to this thing we spoke about previously around what are people allowed to access and do. And if you've got people that are leaving your business under what you believe are good terms, and you still grant them access to systems up until they've actually exited, things like this can happen.
And it also refers to the other thing we talked about last time, which was it wasn't the train providers or the station managers that provided the wireless themselves. They were subcontracting it to somebody else, and their system was compromised by somebody else's unrelated actions, really. So, interesting point. Okay, and then we heard about we've recently heard about another issue at a school in Billericay, I understand.
Yeah. So this is a little bit older. This hit during the May half term, but of course we know what happens in schools around that time of year. It's big exam time, and of course that's like a hugely disruptive thing for everyone involved. The staff, the students, the parents. It's a difficult time anyway, and not having access to the school's IT systems for all raft of reasons is problematic. So just adds an extra level of stress and aggravation there.
So do we not actually know what happened there?
So all we know is that it's believed that somebody went in, stole a bunch of data, and generally ran amok. So the likelihood is that the data was stolen and then disruptive actions were taken to try and hide that.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's been any attribution yet, which probably means it's not a major nation state player. It's probably maybe even somebody that's associated with the school, maybe an inside job, maybe a student that didn't want to do their economics exam or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, it could be something like that.
If only this had happened 40 years ago, I would have been, well, actually slightly more than that. I'd have got scot-free. But there you go. My academic career would be a mere blur. There you are. Brilliant.
So yeah, but again, the point with that is systems were offline, the school was closed. So again, disruptive to that exam process. If a ransom had been requested from the school, they would have been under extreme pressure to do something about it, because they need to bring things back on so people can take exams and get ready for the exams. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I suppose the one takeaway from that is it might be worth finding out what actually happened there at some stage, and the advice of likewise institutions need to put things in place.
Normally the reason that these things haven't been made public knowledge yet is because there's an active criminal investigation going on, and they can't. So the information I'm reading suggests that the ICO were informed. They've almost certainly engaged the police. So there's probably going to be, it may not be a huge fanfare, but there's probably going to be some kind of a custodial sentence against somebody at some point.
We hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. No, we're great followers of fashion here on Threatsafe, and we know that most of our cultural fashions and such like come from the States, whether we like that or not. And we were discussing earlier on, Toby, about a new scam taking advantage of some of the latest technologies. Well, actually, by becoming more mainstream technologies, by the way, to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is go ahead, tell us.
Yeah. So we know that phone scams are one vector that attackers will use as part of a social engineering plan to try and get you to do something, and often it's to try and get you to either do something on your computer or get you to hand over some personal information. And the big challenge with these scams that the attackers have got is they've got to sound plausible. They've got to sound like they know what they're doing. They've got to sound like they are honest and genuine, and often that's not the case. They've either got this very poor quality phone line, or they've got a very strong accent, or they sound like they're 8 years old. Yeah, it's that kind of situation. And the problem is finding enough people with enough gravity to be able to deliver these scam calls to be really successful. And we see on the TV all the time. I mean, there was one on just a few days ago talking about phone scams, people being called from the bank and how. Their account's been compromised and they need to transfer everything to a new safe account they've just set up for them. So give us all your details. And it's a confidence trickster. They are trying to convince people. So the latest evolution here, and to your point, is leveraging this deepfake technology.
Yeah.
And I've heard of several occurrences in the US where people have received phone calls in the middle of the night from a very officious sounding law enforcement official saying that a member of their family, and they recite names and give information about this person within their family, and say that they've been arrested for a driving offence. So normally like a DUI, a driving under the influence type offence. And of course, a major accident, bail's been set at $50,000. If they hand over their credit card now, they'll get them released immediately. And of course, people just wake up. They think that their nearest and dearest has got themselves into trouble. They're falling over themselves to help them out of that predicament. And you can see how these people are going to fall for this.
I guess this is what's the lessons to be learned there, because obviously that doesn't necessarily translate directly over here because we don't have such things around paying bail and such like. But I guess the truth is that for these things to work, they are scraping your social media and looking at your Facebook page if you have one, and don't if you can help it, that's a personal opinion, by the way, expressed by me, that they can work out what the relationships are and get names and such like, and say, hey, it's the old thing about people breaking into your house because you said I'm going on holiday for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's taking those things to the natural conclusions and using that information. Okay, and so, but what it effectively is the deep fake bit of this.
So it's the audio. So essentially, what's happening is somebody's voice has been cloned, and it's reading off a script. And as you say, they're pulling pertinent information. So it's a targeted attack in many ways, because they know that you, John Smith, have got a son or daughter with this name and this date of birth, and you're in this area, and perhaps they drive this kind of car. They can recall all of this information to give it some semblance of credibility.
Gravitas, okay. I suppose, I mean, AI will, sometimes we don't know, and certainly it will certainly become truer. We don't know that you're talking to a not real person, and sometime soon, and not too far away, that you'll be called by somebody who doesn't really exist, but is AI, and is piecing together this information with certain rules and reacting, which is the most terrifying bit, really.
Well, and then, we've touched on before about the impact that AI has on criminality and cybersecurity and these kinds of things, and the deepfake technology is part of it. But I think the thing that's equally scary, and if it doesn't exist already, I'm almost certain that it soon will, but toolkits that allow you with one piece of information, send an AI off to go and research everything you need to complete this script that's going to ring up and say, this has happened, that has happened, you owe this.
So they could do a really deep dive into your biography, your background, such like, and form a story which will be credible to get you, and it'd be targeted for you. Of course, anybody who did that on me, the AI would fall asleep trying to find something interesting. But there you go. Right. So here we go. I think we're at the end of this one. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Don't forget Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Go to the website, which we're going to put again here just now. There you are.
We are now.
We are now. And if we don't, I'm just going to look like I'm doing that thing again. Toby, thank you very much for your information and insights. Everyone, we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for listening or watching.
Thank you for listening to Threatsafe. We hope you found it enjoyable and informative. Please reach out with any comments, feedback, questions, and we look forward to seeing you soon.